order at 6 p.m. Our first order of business is elections. I would like to postpone elections until after our regular agenda meeting, if that's okay. The second thing, our order, we do have a quorum of 5 members, 3 members and 2 alternates, so we do have a quorum. And I would like, the first order of business is approval of minutes for July 2025. Is there a motion on the floor to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from July 24th, 2025's meeting.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, raise your hand. Motion carries 5-0. We'd like to move into our regular agenda. And just to let everyone know the process of the regular agenda, we're going to have the purpose of the hearing, we're going to have a staff report. After the staff report, we're going to have an applicant presentation. After the applicant presentation, we're going to have persons wishing to speak for or against. You will have 3 minutes to speak. That 3 minutes is set hard and firm, 3 minutes. Then we will have staff and applicant discussion, and then we'll move into consideration and possible action. So our first order of agenda is consideration and possible action for VAZ 2025-0337. It's the variance for the reduction of the corridor overlay district setback for a food store supermarket use. This is a request by Hama Esada. Applicant, please excuse me if I pronounced it wrong. Applicant on behalf of 2011 Property Incorporated owner for approval of variance as permitted by the Unified Development Code, ordinance number 2000-T, to allow 1, a variance to reduce the required 30-foot setback for parking and maneuvering areas within the corridor overlay district, section 2.4.5.1. This has a general location of northwest corner of Broadway Street and Yost Boulevard, Pearland, Texas. Do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Bauer, and I'll be making the request tonight, presenting it. So the summary of the request, it's a variance, as mentioned, to reduce the 30-foot setback for all off-street parking, maneuvering, and loading areas from the right-of-way within the corridor overlay district. And specifically, and we'll get more into this on the site plan, it's to go down to a 9-foot for the left-hand side from the driveway, so the western portion of the front of the property at the point of access, and then to do 20 feet for the portion that's east of the driveway for parking areas. And again, we'll go over this in the site plan. And so the request is to be able to develop the site with a 1-story, 5,400 square foot international bakery and market with associated parking. To date, staff has received 9 written comments in support, 1 phone call in support, 2 written comments against the request, and 1 phone call against the request, as well as 1 phone call asking for more information. And some of the concerns raised in the opposition was kind of traffic concerns based on the proposed use and impact on the adjacent residences. And also, I'd just like to note that of all the comments given, those within 200 feet were only 1 comment against and 1 comment or 1 phone. The 1 phone call and the one of the written comments were property owners within 200 feet. All the other comments were outside of the 200 feet. So just going over the zoning of the subject property and the surrounding, it's within the neighborhood service district, and that same zoning is to the east and west and some of the south, with some general business as well to the south. And then to the north is the single family residential 2 zoning district. Looking at the future land use of the subject property, it's within the commercial center place type, and that same place type is for the properties along Broadway to the east and west, as well as the south. And then to the north is the traditional residential place type. So here we get just to look at the existing uses surrounding the property. We have those existing single family residences to the north, a fire station across Yost to the east, the gas station and restaurant to the south across Broadway, and then to the west is a flooring and retail business. A little history on the property. It was annexed into the city in 1960, platted in 1972. Then in September 2024, a portion that was a part of the Yost right-of-way was conveyed to the property. And then in April 2025, if you remember, there was a variance requested for reduction of the front setback along Broadway from 30 feet to 5 feet, and a reduction in the buffer required when commercial is adjacent to residential from 25 feet to 12.5 feet, which both requests were denied by the board. And so coming a little further forward, the site plan has been revised and a new variance request has been submitted, and that is the subject of this presentation. So just another look at an aerial of the property, kind of getting a little more of like a street or aerial view, kind of just a little closer. And so here's the proposed site plan for the property. And so the blue hatched area is the proposed building. You have, my bad, back a little bit. Broadway Street is on the bottom of your screen. Yost is on the right-hand side of your screen. So the blue hatched area is the building with associated parking. You have the driveway coming off of Broadway Street with the required cross access to adjacent lots. And then it should be noted as well that the 25-foot buffer is being provided at the back with trees. And so looking more specifically at the request of the applicant, the Unified Development Code requires within the Corridor Overlay District that a 30-foot setback be required for any parking, maneuvering, or loading areas. And so Broadway Street, being a Corridor Overlay District, has that requirement. And so the red line, that red dashed line, represents where that 30-foot parking and maneuvering setback would be. And so they're requesting, with the blue lines taking one at a time, kind of starting from going west or the left-hand side of the driveway, they're requesting that 9-foot setback to allow the cross access to go across to the adjacent lot. And then for the area east of the driveway, which would be the right-hand side, they're requesting a 20-foot setback for the parking. And it should be noted that all of the landscaping that would be required for the Corridor Overlay District, any frontage, trees, so large shade trees, ornamental shrubs, that is still being required in full amount. And so looking at the approval criteria for the requested variance, staff found that the request met 4 of the criteria, and it may meet 2 and then did not meet another 2. And so while the request does not meet all 8 of the criteria, staff recognizes that the existing lot is relatively small in size and has 2 front setbacks along Yost and Broadway, as well as the Corridor Overlay District, adding an additional setback. Additionally, the buffering is also required for the adjacent single-family zoning / uses to the rear, which kind of restricts more down where you can build on the lot, and they are providing that buffer. It should also be noted that through the platting of the property, when they are required to replat the property, it will require a 10-foot right-of-way dedication along Broadway, so losing an additional 10 feet to that right-of-way. And through the platting, cross-access is something that will need to be maintained. So cross-access to those adjacent Broadway lots to the west will need to be provided. And so it should also be noted that several parcels along Broadway, specifically to the west, were developed prior to adoption of the UDC standards, and thus they may not meet those Corridor Overlay District requirements for setbacks or the buffering requirements to the rear. And so due to the setback requirements related to the right-of-way, the Corridor Overlay District, and the buffers, staff recognizes the challenges to developing this site, and therefore staff recommends approval of the requested variance to reduce the 30-foot required Corridor Overlay District setback to 9 feet west of the driveway and 20 feet east of the driveway. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Do we have an applicant presentation? If you would go to the podium and state your name and address.
John Linton, architect. I am at 553 Hughes Road, Shepherd, Texas.
Thank you. Please proceed.
As Patrick was saying, this is a very challenging site. These lots in this area are relatively small when you start considering the overlay district that's there. There are not a lot of things that will fit on here. We have gone back and forth, as he said, for several times now to try to make this work. The site we're going to present today, as he presented earlier, and we'll run through these plans and through some renderings and things like that to show the vision of what the owner has for this site. The agenda of items that we're going to try to go over again is location, so we're going to reinforce what Patrick said there, site complexities, inspiration for this project, and then look at what we've kind of come up with to try our best to meet the criteria of the city and the overlay district for this particular site. And then again, we'll run through some concept images of kind of what we start to envision of going on this corner. As he said, we're at the northwest corner there of Broadway and Yost. As noted, we, as part of the process, acquired part of the old Yost right-of-way to try to get more land on here. The challenge of that, though, as you'll see in the next couple slides, is that there's utilities and other things that we had to consider on top of all of the requirements for the overlay district. Big thing we're trying to do here, of course, is a grocery store with a lot of unique offerings and things like that. The next image. We've been looking at inspiration of different offerings and things and places, and this is one place that we have taken a lot of inspiration from, just offerings, fresh bread, different things like that. So those are parts that would be integral to this store and the offering that's going to be offered within the facility. As far as the site goes, this was what I was mentioning. The owner purchased, acquired the additional right-of-way that was abandoned by Yost, but it brings on its own challenges. You can see there's a sanitary sewer easement and utilities that run across it. And so when we've looked at this and different options, we have to obviously take into the consideration of that and where it's located. You can see as well on this exhibit how much of the site is with just the overlay district not really buildable for structures on. So, and then site plan, I'll hand it to Janice and walk through what we've done and developed with the site.
Hi, Janice Wagner. My address, is that what you wanted?
Yes, ma'am.
22910 Wren Lane, Tomball, Texas.
And please speak in the microphone, so this is being recorded as well. So please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So site plan up above here. Some of the challenges obviously was, looking at this cross access, needing to provide a way to get from this property to the adjacent property next to it. And trying to, I think kind of the purpose behind asking for the 20-foot buffer variance is if you look at the parking, right now we're showing double-sided head-in parking, but if we stick to the space that's provided, if you look here at that zone in the middle that's allowable, that won't even allow for head-in parking. So with that, you're looking at complications in getting trucks on the property to do deliveries. You're having difficulties with people parking and trying to figure out how to, back up and turn around and get out and provide adequate, easy access in and out of the space. So part of this variance request is to allow for easier maneuverability on the site for everybody and make it a safer space. The building itself, we're thinking about just a one-story building. We've got considerations in place to protect neighbors that are behind the space. We don't show any doors, any windows on the back of the building. So there's no openings on the back side. It will just be a natural landscaped space, basically. Any trucks that are entering the property, they're going to be on the front side. So that buffer zone should provide adequate distance between residents and the commercial space. And we're also showing trees all along the back too. So kind of talking again about, the purpose behind these variance requests. So the main purpose here for the 30-foot going down to a 20-foot on the right-hand side of the driveway is to help out with parking, help out with maneuverability as you coming and going. And then the cross-access drive, if we're able to also put that in that buffer zone on the left-hand side, that actually gives us a place to put a building. So right now we're very limited in where the building footprint can reside. If we were to look at putting it on the opposite side, then there's a lot of challenges with the utilities. So we wanted to kind of give you an idea of what it might look like. So we've kind of played around with some sketches here so you can kind of get a feel for the space. I think the whole point is to bring something that the whole community can come together and be proud of, and it can be a specialty kind of market that you can go to and help bring, different activities and things. We're just hoping it'll be a big improvement. So one of the things is you see kind of this window view, kind of the hope is to have a space where you actually see the bakery creating some of its baked goods. We've even talked about like a conveyor belt system that can, take the baked goods around and make it a really fun, interesting environment. So it's more of like an experience and not just a place that you're going to go to and grab your items and go. And that concludes our presentation. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. We would like to, you can have a seat. If we call you, we will call you once we get to that section. Thank you so much. We'd like to move into persons wishing to speak for or against. I do have some cards here already, so I'm going to ask Don Fertitta. Next will be Linda Fertitta. If you would, Ms. Fertitta, if you would go to the podium and state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Dawn Fertitta. I'm at 2108 Roland Rue, so directly behind the potential specialty store. I have a 11-year-old son that catches the school bus literally on that corner. So for safety issues, I'm concerned about, not just my son, but there are also other children that catch that school bus right there. I don't want the value of my house to go down. Overall, just the safety of my son. I'm a single mom, and so his safety is my priority. And having the store that close directly behind my house is a really big concern.
Thank you. Ms. Linda Fertitta, and next after Ms. Fertitta will be Damian Trump. Yes.
My name is Linda Fertitta, and I have the house right behind where y'all want to build it at 2101 Roland Rue Street. My driveway is right up against Roland Rue and Broadway. I come in, and right across the street is the fire station, and there have been numerous accidents at that red light. And y'all coming in to build something is not good because of the safety factor. The majority of the people that live on that cul-de-sac are retired people. And safety is a very, very big concern. And people that cannot find a place to park on the street will pull up in my driveway because it's right by the stop sign or the light. And having that going on because they might not be able to get in and out of the grocery store or bakery is not fair to me. Plus, I have 2 dogs as for me, and all they are going to do is bark continuously because of the noise. This is a big safety factor. And on that corner, it's, in my opinion, not good.
Thank you. Mr. Trump. After Mr. Trump is William Schultz.
Hi, my name is Damien. I live at 2103 Roland Rue Street, right behind where they'd be building. And as it is obvious, no one on this street currently wants this to be built. No one is planning on going here. And no one earlier at the previous meeting was in favor of this. It would come here. There's only one comment within the 200 foot radius and that one comment was against it. And one of your points was the fresh bread. With a quick Google search, you can find plenty of other places in Pearland that provide fresh bread, plenty of bakeries in here. So, yeah, and if you could take that out of your store so you can make it smaller possibly to get with the variances, as you've already found a new plan to comply with the other variances, then I think that should be followed through. There's going to be plenty of noise with the constant cars driving. I have a very rigorous academic course at Pearland High School, and just that extra noise on top of the fire department always rushing around to save people would just be a lot more. And there'd be a dumpster right behind our house, which would stink it up. I work at a restaurant, and I smell the dumpster right behind it. They have big walls right around the dumpster, and it still stinks constantly right behind it. So that's my point.
Thank you. Mr. Schultz.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is William Schultz. I live on 2113 Roland Rue. I've been there since 1996. I've been a Pearland resident since 1972. Big difference from 2,500 people to probably 130,000 now. I'm with these guys on safety. I work for a large oil field company, was involved in the catastrophe out in the Gulf. I worked for Baker, helped seal that off. These people could have stopped that, shut that rig down for $1 million a day, but it cost them how many lives, and people are still suffering over that. But heck with that. But I agree with the location. There's so many other places to build in town. You get that fire station, like Damien was saying, people are always going in and out of there. I'm retired. I got a wife and a dog and a cat. And people are always bicycling down there and walking their pets, jogging, whatever. And like they were saying, the kids get off the school bus there. And the fire station, you know, they're always going in and out, and I do not mind that. It's great having a fire station there. I can deal with that noise because I know they're going to save their life. They saved my mom's life a year ago. But anyway, it's just the area. It just gives me this something good from this is not going to arise from all this. Like Linda was saying, you can, like, we got to pull in the backyard. We'll be chilling out there, and you'll hear, and just my wife and me are looking at each other like, you're gonna hear a boom or not, you know? And it's a lot of times you hear it, you know. But anyway, I just got a weird feeling about this. I don't know if it's a money thing or whatever. I'm sure it is. I don't mean to. I shouldn't be judgmental that way, but it's just I got something bad's going to happen. I just got a weird feeling about this. That's all. Anywhere but there. If it was my store, that'd be the last place I would build it. You know, traffic is the main thing, and then there's a lot of activity. You know, you have to see it on a daily basis. You know, but that's all I got to say. I'm just going to keep rambling on. But thank you, y'all, for your time, and I hope y'all have a good weekend.
Thank you, sir. You're welcome. Do we have any other persons wishing to speak for or against proposal? Okay, we'd like to move into now staff and applicant discussion. Any questions and comments from the board to the staff or applicant?
I have a question. There's no opening to Yost, right? It's only opening to Broadway?
Yes, currently the site plan is only opening to Broadway, not to Yost.
And the school bus stop is on Yost?
I believe so. From what everyone said, it would be on Yost at the intersection, probably Roland Rue.
Okay, and this might be for the architect team. Where's the dumpster location going to be?
Would you please go to the
Oh, I see it.
microphone now?
Thank you.
Oh,
My friend just pointed it out. Okay, I see it. All right.
Gary.
Question for staff. How does this differ from what we saw a month ago?
Yeah, so a month ago it was, so you see the buffer here, there's actually this line right here that shows the 12 and a half where my cursor is. The building was right up against there, so they were asking for a 12 and a half. They've moved that to meet the 25. In terms of the building, it was actually more positioned in the middle.
Yeah, remember that.
And then the parking was off to the sides. And then the landscaping was actually it was only 5 feet for that planting area along. So imagine this whole green area is not here. It's more almost half of what this one is over here. So those are some major differences between those two, but still requesting for the corridor overlay district one. They're meeting the one on the backside, but not the front. That's why they're requesting the variance.
Okay, what was the request in the previous meeting for the setback?
For along Broadway Street, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, it was from 30 feet, that 30 foot required, to 5 feet for the entire thing. They didn't make a difference between east or west of the driveway. It was just a flat 5 feet for the entire thing.
Okay, so the request tonight is for a much greater setback? Is that what you're saying?
They increased the setbacks, yeah. Instead of being 5, it's now, as mentioned, on the west-hand side, it's up to 9 feet. On the eastern side, it's up to 20 feet.
You wouldn't happen to have that slide, would you? Not that you would need to bring that slide, but I was just curious. I was trying to remember why we voted against that.
I could bring it up if you would like me to. If you want me to bring up the old site plan, I can. But this is the focus of the request. The focus of the request is the site plan that's at hand.
Right.
Because this is a totally new request.
I have a question for staff. One of the concerns mentioned was someone parking in her driveway to walk over. Are we worried about the parking spaces for this business, or is it adequate?
So currently, based on the requirement, it's 1 space per 200 square feet, and that's standard for, like, imagine it's the same for Walmart or any of those big ones. And they are providing the required based on that square footage. So no matter what, they're not asking a variance from that, so they have to meet that requirement. They can't get by that one. And if they need to change things, they may have to make the building smaller, but they have to meet the parking. That's something that they're not requesting a variance from.
Thank you.
Patrick, was the first request, wasn't a 2-story building originally?
I believe so. I'll let the applicant weigh in on that. I believe it was, but I'll let them, because it was.
Was the first request for the applicant, was it a 2-story building? That was a portion of it. Now,
If I could
I'm
interrupt,
sorry, would
just
you-
to
yeah,
remind
go to-
everybody, it's a recorded proceeding, and we need to speak from the microphone where
Sorry,
they
yeah,
could
please,
catch
please
that.
go to the microphone. I'm sorry. And I will ask that question again. Was the first request a 2-story, and now it's going to be a 1.5 or 1 story?
It'll be a 1-story.
1 story. Okay.
Initially, we were looking at doing a partial portion up on that second level, again, to try to the concept of the conveyor system for the bakery. But we have since, because of the square footage requests, to be reduced in order to try to fit as close as we could to these requirements, have put it at a 1-story structure now.
I know that was the main concern from the last April meeting about the 2-story.
Just being able to see over fences and what have you. Yes, sir. So,
And against the back portion not meeting the requirements there. So that was one of the main concerns from the last, okay. So
Yes, sir.
that's. Gary, you want to follow up with your question or comment, Gary?
Well, I wanted to ask about the lighting. Does this plan have the same outdoor lighting, parking lighting as the one we saw
That
earlier?
was a question too.
Yes, I'll say on the applicant side, I don't know where they're planning to put lighting, but we have specific requirements that they have to provide essentially what's called a photometric plan to show the lighting levels, and all lights need to be shielded and downward facing. And oftentimes when we may get code enforcement stuff on lighting, and that's where people have to fix that.
All right.
But they do provide a plan if they got to that stage to permitting where they would have to show that they're not having an impact on adjacent properties. And specifically, when you're next to residential, we have specific limitations on how bright it can be, so that it limits that. In the parking area, you need to have that lit, but specifically to residential areas, the code speaks specifically about that.
So the light shining on the neighbor's property is governed by particular regulations, I guess. So we've taken into account the impact
correct.
or possible impact on that. I'm still, in my little bitty mind, trying to understand or swallow what the difference was between tonight and the last meeting we had. Other than that we've moved the building over
bring it up for
further
you one moment.
west.
So you were the architect. Could you give more detail in what he's asking
correct.
from the previous?
This was the previous.
That's previous, yes.
Previous design was like you said, it had some 2-story aspects to it, so larger square footage. In order to achieve that and make the store work, from a process perspective, we encroached into that setback buffer area toward the residence, so that was one of the variance requests. We heard everybody's desires to not have that and impede on the residents. So as we moved forward, we pulled the building forward. And in doing so, of course, couldn't get nearly as much parking, so which then the building got smaller as well. But it was our attempt to try to meet some of the concerns from last time. Knowing that this is a commercial development and at some point something will go here, we were just trying our best to fit the request to get a little bit more of what is known as a adequate buffer between the commercial tracks. And so that was really just the move on this one, was to try to move it forward and get less variance requests, as Patrick had noted, and in doing so, reduce the building size and everything else.
So Gary, are you clear with what what he's responding to you?
I see the difference now. Did you have any recollection of why we voted that down last time?
Yes, we was a lot of concerns from the community. It was it was too close to the residents. The property was so large that we had so many reductions and setbacks. It was not going to be a good situation. The safety was not good from that standpoint of view. So we definitely looked at that as a whole. And yes, Martin.
Chair, if I may, there was a comment that was shared by the applicant earlier that I took note of, and it may help y'all in your proceedings and dialogue. There was a statement that there were no doors and no windows along the rear property line. If y'all wanted to make that a condition of approval to ensure that there were no views from the commercial or within the commercial building to the residents, that may be something that y'all wish to add on to your recommendations.
I think that was mentioned in the plan that there was going to be no doors in the back, but we can make that, we can think about making that once we do the proposal, once we get that far. Any other questions or comments from the board to the staff or the applicant?
Well, I'm going to ask that this is not determinative, but I just wanted the information to satisfy myself. There was a concern, maybe it was Linda, I'm not sure who, had mentioned they had a bus stop somewhere here that one child is picked up there. Is that right?
To speak in the
One moment, please. Could we have the, could you have, you sit down, sir, applicant, and you address Miss Linda Gary?
Yes.
Miss Linda, would you go to the podium and answer Miss Dawn? Miss Dawn, would you go to the podium and answer Mr. Gary's question?
You want to repeat your question for me?
Well, how would, if this is approved, the way it's presented tonight, how will that affect, or will it affect, how the students are picked up by a school bus?
Creates a lot more traffic. Right now we have a very quiet street. A lot of people are retired on that street, and what few of us that aren't retired that have children, they're young children, and they stand right there on the corner of Yost and Roland Rue, which is where the bus comes up, which is right around the corner from there. So creating a lot more traffic for our children with the bus stops, I just don't find it to be very safe.
Okay, you're saying the intersection of Yost and what street? It's not 518?
Yost and Roland Rue is where the bus stops, right there. My mom is the one that's directly behind it, and her driveway is where the bus stops.
So this should not change or necessitate a change that could affect the safety of anybody getting on at that bus stop, then, right? Since it's going to be the same place. That was my concern.
Yeah, just a lot more traffic and people turning around if they don't have enough parking, having to turn around. And I agree with my mom. She's more likely to get her driveway used because it already gets used throughout the day, people turning around in her driveway because it's convenient. It's a really large driveway.
Thank you, Miss.
I appreciate it. Thank you
so much.
Very much.
Any other questions or comments from the board to the staff or to the applicant?
I'd just like to make a comment. I live on Shady Crest, and I feel y'all's pain. I'm 15 houses down Shady Crest, so I go through that intersection twice to 4 times a day. I understand the traffic concern. The thing you have to remember, that property is going to get developed one day, and it's going to happen, unfortunately. The school bus issue, I understand that concern, but that's on Yost. That's not going to be, quote, directly affected by vehicles going off of 518. And I have grandson and a granddaughter. I understand the school bus. But you have to remember that property is going to get developed. I'm sitting here on the board looking at that going, I could think of a lot worse things being in that corner. It could be a car wash that has 500 cars that go in and out every day. It could be something that produces a lot more traffic. So I feel y'all's pain, but I think this is a pretty good change to what our concerns were the first time. Because our first time, the concern of 12.5 feet off that back fence, that was going to make it a very noisy environment in y'all's backyard. At least with 25 feet and some shrubbery or trees in there, it will help cut down the noise tremendously. And if we do put the restriction in that no windows or doors on the back of the building, I think that's a win-win for you all as people living next door. And I feel your pain. I own a business in Pearland. In developing a piece of property, we don't have that much property left, raw property. So all these little pieces are going to get filled in by every kind of business there is. I sympathize with you, but I also look at that property and go, this is not a bad deal, not a bad thing, in my humble opinion. So, but I'm only one of 5 setting up here.
And
Are there any other questions or comments from the board to the staff or applicant?
Yes, I want to ask a question, if I could, of the folks who came to express their opinion tonight. We're looking at this picture, the overhead view.
Gary, hold on 1 second, Gary. Let's try to narrow it down. If you want to ask a question to one particular person, because you said the whole group. So
Yeah. I just want, is anybody here tonight that lives in one of the houses further west along the street there? Because those houses abut the businesses that exist, and there's no landscape buffer zone there. Does anybody live in one of those houses?
So you're asking if somebody live in 2107 or 2121
2109.
or 21?
2107, 2109, 2111?
So does anyone live in those locations?
Nobody's here from any of those addresses.
2113?
Is here.
Okay. Okay. Well, I was just curious what there's people would be experiencing when they're behind these commercial buildings and there's no buffer on their property or between their property and the commercial buildings.
So, excuse me one moment. Do we have any other questions or comments from the board to the staff or applicant?
I just want to reiterate, I feel like if we do not approve it, there's going to be a parking issue that could affect it. With the approval, it adds adequate parking. And so I'm also thinking, I've looked through all the things, the school bus stop. If that becomes an issue, I also have a couple of kids. We just changed our bus stop this year. The dogs is the only problem I couldn't figure out a solution to, but everything else seems to be addressed with the plan that's presented today.
The one concern of the young man on the dumpster is if that becomes an issue, people aren't going to want to go to this store because you're going to be walking by the dumpster. And I understand, I worked in restaurants when I was a young man, and the dumpster is a bad place. And I'm a plumber by trade, so I have a heck of a nose, and I don't always smell things. But my point is, on the dumpster, if it becomes an issue, that's when you call code enforcement, and then they get involved and straighten out the issue. But I don't think the business owner is going to allow a messy dumpster to occur because people are walking right by it, going to the front door. But I do appreciate what you said about that, because that is a big concern.
Real big concern. Any other questions or comments from the board to the staff or applicant? Okay, we'd like to move into consideration and possible action. Would you place the motion, and would you make the motion into the affirmative and add the window? Would you read the motion, please?
I'll be glad to. I make a motion to approve VAZ 2025-0337 as presented, with the condition that there is no doors or windows on the back side of the building.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been motion and second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, raise your hand. Motion carries 5-0. We would like to now move into the end of our agenda, where I'll move back the elections portion. Staff, so how do you want us to, we only have 3 members here today. We have 2 alternates. Do you want to proceed with the election, or do you want to wait till we have a full set of members?
That would be in the board's discretion, not staff's discretion. So
is there anyone that would like to be part of the, yes, Vice President, what is it? Chairman, Vice President, Secretary. Anybody want to be secretary?
Yep. I have a slate of candidates I'd like to propose. I'd like to go ahead and vote and get it over with. This will be the second time we've passed on it, if it's legal for us to vote like this.
I'm okay, because, yeah.
So I'm not clear. We're alternates, so we're not part of the vote or the possible candidate.
you are part of the vote.
Party vote.
You are not eligible to be one of the officers.
Officers, that's what officers. So would you make
Go
your
ahead and
slate?
vote.
Yes.
You want to present a slate?
Yeah, just
Sir?
You want to
present
present?
a slate.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I'm going to nominate a slate of officers. I'd like to nominate Mark as our chairperson. We don't have Jerry Acosta with us tonight, but I'd like to, he is the current vice chairman, correct? I'd like to nominate Jerry Acosta as the vice chairman. Is that I think the chairperson, yeah. And I'd like to nominate somebody called Gary Schramm as the secretary.
I accept your nomination for chairperson. I don't know if, since Jerry is not here, can we?
Yes, sir. You could still proceed with that slate. And if Mr. Acosta at some point decides that he can't serve in that capacity, he will be sure to let us know. And then we'll just have an election for that spot.
Okay. Are there any?
I'll make a motion to accept the slate as presented.
There's been a motion on the floor to accept the slate as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, raise your hand. Motion carries 5-0.
Or Jerry.
This is the end at 6:46 p.m. of the Zoning Board of Adjustments meeting for September 2025.